Hey! Something slapped him in the cheek. Hello? Wake up, Arda Zephny. How in the world did you fall asleep midair? Good thing you were lined up with the net, or you would have gone splat against the floor, like the first day I saw you. Fall asleep? Midair? Net? Arda felt the thin, crisscrossing ropes under him, dipping due to his weight, having just cushioned two teens, physically a teen anyway, from dropping 200 meters. Oh, right. As soon as he thought about 200 meters, everything came flooding back in his mind, and the situation suddenly became crystal clear. Right. They were being chased by a Sector 8 patrol and a few Imperialists through the city of Coltis, before Blake, being the moron that he was, jumped off the side of the road 200 meters above the surface with no parachute or bridge glider. And Arda, being the idiot who somehow lost his sense of rationale after developing a sense of self, he was really on the fence of whether he liked it or not, followed suit shortly after. During his fall, he also fell asleep. He grabbed a netting on both sides of him that had created a valley and hauled himself into a squatting position. Blake was beside him, having been kneeled by his head, barely visible. The only bit of light came from Blake's flashlight, which he had taken great pleasure into shining directly into Arda's face. As soon as Arda's eyes met his, disregarding the beam, he said, "You're the moron here." Blake seemed like he was going to shoot back an offended protest, but stopped short as he looked up, where there was nothing but darkness. "Well, we're both morons then, since we both jumped. I can't believe I didn't die in a 200-meter fall and didn't just hit a side road on the way down. Now let's go. You weren't out for long, thankfully." The net was apparently originally an experiment of sorts on the Hawks, trying to see how easily they would take a bait. The results were astronomical failures, and the net had been there for months, where everyone had forgotten about it. Somehow it had resisted the wear and tear of the apocalyptic weather over the months, and provided Blake and Arda a safe landing. If it had been in bad condition, however, well, the answer was obvious. Either way, they took down the net by shooting the cords keeping it up. It fell to the ground, and the snow was suddenly the largest game of checkers in the world. "Alright, where's Kendall Square?" Arda demanded. Blake crossed his arms and tapped his foot. "Well, Kendall Square is right here. We're standing on it." Arda stared at him, and then looked around. It was a city square. He had just assumed it was just a convenient spot for the net. To think it was so convenient, it was placed directly above Kendall Square. Buildings surrounded the place, heavy snowfall having completely covered up the ground, and stacked against the side of buildings, creating something almost like a mini basin. Old broken lampposts peeked above the blanket of white, 8 in total. There didn't seem to be anything out of place, apart from the surprising lack of roads in the entire volume of the air from the square up. Or, at least what he could see of it when he pointed his flashlight, which was still somehow in his hand, up. All squares are required during building to be free of roads. It's where we hosted any pre-apocalyptic holiday events or ceremonies, Blake explained as he walked to the middle of Kendall Square and crouched, lifting the net slightly. He frowned and sighed. His breath appeared in the air for a moment, only for it to be whisked away by the wind immediately. "That's not going to work. I know Cleona said we can find the answers here, but where here?" That sentence made no grammatical sense, Arda said, scanning the square. It didn't feel familiar. Could it be that years of corrosion and the changing civilization even before the apocalypse made it unrecognizable to him? But how did he recognize the building in Lucental? How did he feel attracted to the perpetual motion contraption in Jokin Cliff? If it was anywhere in Kendall Square, it's either in a building or underground. Come on, Blake. Let's search the building and get out of plain sight. The patrol would have reported back to base by now. They could come up after us any time. Arda turned and headed toward the nearest building, his flashlight in front of him, casting a hazy light in the immense snow and darkness. He only heard one pair of footsteps. Frowning, he turned back. Blake didn't move, still standing smack middle of the square. He was looking up, the light beam directed at a window directly above a broken lamppost. There wasn't anything particularly unusual about it. Blake? Arda questioned. What are you... Don't these lampposts look odd to you? Blake asked, turning around in a slow circle, his flashlight landing on each one. 8 of them. They're all arranged peculiarly, and they're all still visible above the snow after 40 years. Blake turned to Arda. Doesn't that seem awfully coincidental to you? He had a point. The 8 lampposts were arranged irregularly on the 4 sides of the square. 2 walls that were parallel had 2 lampposts each, and they didn't mirror each other. As for the other 4, 3 were near the 3rd wall, while the 8th was along the opposite side, off-centered. The lone lamppost was the only one that was still standing straight and tall, somehow, unbroken and in almost perfect condition. Usually, this would be regarded as a terrible layout design that somehow passed through the city offices and made into reality, but when they both knew that there was literally more to Kendall Square than what was on the surface, it just seemed like some kind of telltale sign. What do we do with them, though? Arda asked. If they're a clue... He cut himself off when there was a click, and he turned to see Blake taking his gun out of his holster. In a swift movement, he put his flashlight against the gun, aimed with both hands, using the beam to mark the windowsill above a lamppost. He pulled the trigger, and before even seeing if it hit its marker letting the gun fully recoil, he moved on to the next one and shot again and again. 8 trigger pulls later, there was a sudden, muffled rumble from the ground. Kendall Square shook, but not from an earthquake. No, this was different. The snow below the nets, directly underneath Blake, shifted and came to life, rising by itself. Blake stumbled backwards, slipping on the moving net, and fell on his butt, yelping in surprise. 2 beams of light landed on the rising circle of snow, a meter in diameter. The edges crumbled and fell as a ring of something metallic and shiny appeared. Arda ran forward, but then he was forced to crouch as the net tugged beneath his feet, nearly face-planting. He kept his eyes on Blake, moving the light to shine at him. Blake, stay there! Are you okay? Aforementioned Northsphere had to keep moving back to avoid being dragged by the net, practically rolling on the ground. A flurrious cloud of snow was building near the ground as the net kicked them up, and they caught in the wind. It was difficult to see, but he thought he saw Blake sticking up a thumbs up. Fine! What is that? I can't see properly. Neither could Arda, really, but he had a feeling he knew what it was. Out of everything in Kendall Square, this was giving him that same sense of familiarity as the one that led him to the basement in Lucento. It's a lift, or an elevator, same thing. And then, all movement ceased. A myriad of things ran through Arda's mind as he stood, staring at the elevator, the netting draped over it like it had been caught. It was a glass cylinder, capped on both sides with smooth, polished metal, enough to fit 2 people. Arda felt like something had grabbed his lungs and prevented him from breathing, because this elevator looked, and somehow felt, so familiar to the vertical transportations on Earth. It was an odd sensation, like deja vu. It was something that could not be imagined by 1,000 minds, save for those who had actually felt it before. In that moment of silence, light abruptly flooded the square with no prior warning. A line of green light appeared circling the metal roof of the elevator. Arda had to narrow his eyes as he walked closer. He might have been imagining this, but he thought the wind only started to pick up again after the square lit up. Arda took out a knife he'd brought from the drifter and methodically cut through the net, ducking under it to reach the elevator. Blake joined him, huffing and puffing from the exertion and rolling around on the floor. As they stood side by side in front of the smooth cylinder, an outline in the glass appeared and slid down, creating a doorway. You're the expert here, Blake whispered. Should we? He had a better way to answer than with just words. Arda clicked his flashlight off and walked into the cylinder. Blake grumbled something about an overly cool facade of an all-knowing proud nerd and stepped into the elevator as well.